2 cameras enter, 1 camera leaves. Today we've got 2 crop sensor camera bodies that have roughly the same feature set, but are from opposing sides of the camera war. The Sony A6400 is one of the best workhorse cameras that's been released so far this year, and I've been singing its praises and recommending it to a whole bunch of you out there since it came out, because in my mind, this will probably end the year as either the best Sony camera that came out or the second best, depending on if that A7S III ever materializes. The Canon 90D, on the other hand, is a follow-up to one of the most versatile, used, and iconic YouTuber cameras you're going to find. Someday in the future, YouTube should erect a shrine to the venerable 80D because frankly, the website was basically built on the back of one. And the 90D has a whole bunch of upgrades over its predecessor. Which one of these will come out on top as the better option for making your own online content? Let's find out. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Dang. 2 hot cameras ready to battle it out and see which one works best for all of us uploading content on a near constant basis. Let's be frank though, these 2 companies are really at the top of the food chain when it comes to the amount of their cameras used to make online videos. I mean, sure, there are some Panasonics out there, maybe a Fuji or 2, and I think I even saw a Black Magic once or twice. But Sony and Canon, it's hard just to beat them in sheer numbers. So this is about to get real. And before we do get too far into the video, however, I would like to thank my friends over at B&H Photo for loaning me this Canon 90D. The A6400 is my personal camera. Now, if you'd like to get either of these bad boys, I will leave links in the description below. Don't throw your cameras. Now let's compare these 2 against each other using the 3 features and abilities that all cameras need to crush for me to recommend them to all you wonderful viewers and creators out there. And really quickly, let's throw these up on the sticks to be the A cam and the B cam for the rest of the video. There we go, we are now on the Canon 90D and the A6400, and both, just to make this even more fair and to show you that either of these cameras could work well if you just buy the basic package, these are both using their current kit lenses. So it's not something I normally do. I normally try to put like the nice lenses that I have, but these are the 2 kit lenses for both of these cameras. Now it might seem that both of these do have very similar sounding image capabilities. One is a cutting-edge mirrorless camera with a lot of the new hottest technologies from Sony, and the other is a cutting-edge DSLR, whereas DSLRs are kind of on the way out. But I would argue that the 90D is more of like a hybrid DSLR, because while it's got the bigger body, it's got that mirror, it does have a lot of features that mirrorless cameras have, so it's more of like a hybrid, which is pretty impressive. They both can record up to 4K 30 frames per second, and both can do 1080p and up to 120 frames per second. But, and this is a big one, and it will be a deal breaker for some of you out there, the 90D will not record in 24 frames per second at all. Now, I can't find a setting or feature, I mean, maybe it's hidden, but I've been playing with this thing for about a week now, and I can't find it, and that sucks. Now, I don't personally shoot 24 frames per second. It's not that bad for me, but it sucks for those of you out there that do use that or want to upgrade from your 80D using 24 frames per second. But something that the 90D has that's amazing is there is no additional crop in 4K. And you don't lose the autofocus when recording in 4K. We haven't seen that in a minute. Now, the A6400 is built off of a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor, while the 90D has a 32 megapixel APS-C sensor. Now, don't get too wrapped up around the numbers there, because while it does sound like a lot more, it sounds like a significant upgrade, more megapixels isn't always a good thing when it comes to video. Again, I do think both cameras have very similar capabilities. They both do have fantastic autofocusing systems. Sony has the new cutting edge face detection autofocus that just, I mean, it's the best I have ever used. Normally when I compare the A6400 against anything, the A6400 easily just sweeps the table. Like it's not even close unless it's another Sony camera. But the 90D is rocking the newest version of Canon's dual pixel autofocus with an even more improved eye autofocus. Seriously though, they are both so good right now. Practically speaking, for anybody making online content, there's no difference. There is no difference between the 2 systems. I mean, one might focus a little bit faster, one might be a little bit smoother when you want to rack focus, but it's not enough to actually matter. It just, I know everybody gets, Sony's the fastest, Canon's the best. For all intents and purposes, they're the same. Neither of these do have any kind of in-body image stabilization though, which also kind of sucks, but the 90D does have Canon's electronic image stabilization that we've seen in their cameras for the last couple of years. And while it's not perfect, it is better than nothing. And when you combine it with the kit lens that does have optical image stabilization built into it, it doesn't do bad, and it will reduce the shakes when you're carrying around. If you do want to use this, you don't want to have it up on tripods, you want to use it as a vlogging camera, that electronic stabilization works pretty well. For raw image quality though, I do think the A6400 has the advantage here due to having Sony's picture profiles. You get more capabilities for shooting flatter with the Picture Profile 5, which is Cine, which we're recording on right now. You've got HLG, Sony's S-Log. I mean, it gives you a little more control over the image in post-processing, and in my quick test, I think the A6400 has a marked improvement in dynamic range over the 90D, but I do think the 90D could do it if it were given Canon C-Log or wide dynamic range profiles. Like right now we're shooting in neutral with the contrast turned all the way down, and I still think it's a little too contrasty. Like I wish we could get a flatter image. I don't even grade my image that much. I just want to be able to flatten it out a little more. That's not to say that the 90D is bad. You do just have to take a little more care with it. As you can see with these outdoor video, the A6400 has much more detail in the shadow, like under the brim of my hat, where the 90D kind of like crushes those shadows. Where the 90D does have an advantage though is it's got a crop mode. It's a cropped camera with a crop mode. That's crazy, right? It gives you slightly more reach out of your lenses, and while this is pretty common on full frame cameras both in Sony and Canon land, this is an awesome little feature that I've really only ever seen in Panasonic crop sensors before now. Now the A6400 does have digital clear zoom. Both sets of images though, I mean, they look fine. I know the internet generally gives the color to Canon, but honestly both of these look perfectly fine and they're more than usable. Either of these would work if you're straight up looking for image quality. The more important aspect of video quality in general though is audio quality, and both of these cameras do have 3.5mm audio in jacks, and not only do they have audio in jacks, but they both have really good internal preamps. And that's not surprising for Sony. I find that Sony cameras have really good preamps in general. Even their point and shoot cameras have good internal preamps. But this is one of the better ones that I've ever used on a Canon camera. I think the preamps on the 90D are better than the preamps in my EOS are. The 90D also has a headphone out jack, so if you're gonna be behind the camera recording a show or something like that, you can monitor your audio in real time, whereas with the A6400, you'll need a monitor or something to plug in that will give you a headphone out. Overall, video-wise, if you are a filmmaker and you need 24 frames per second, the 90D just isn't gonna do it for you. As we've seen with Canon cameras, they're not gonna release a firmware update giving you 24 frames per second, so don't buy the 90D hoping that someday you'll get it. You just won't. But if you are like me and you shoot 30 frames per second, the 90D starts looking pretty good. Literally and figuratively. Dad jokes. Image quality is kind of important. What's really important though is online content creators know that algorithms are hungry and need to be fed lots and lots of content. And the way to do that is to have cameras that run themselves as much as possible and you don't have to worry about it. And in the ease of use category, this isn't even a close competition. I mean, this isn't even a competition. Like, Sony's playing a whole different game here. Yes, as far as Sony cameras go, the A6400 is great. It's got plenty of buttons to use, it's got a customizable button on top, and it's rocking the newer version of the Sony user interface, enabling very fast access to every major setting that you could want. But Canon's user interface is hands down the best on the market. Like nothing else that I've used comes close. And not only is it incredibly easy to navigate through the menus, the fully articulating screen on the side is fully touch enabled, making things like changing the settings while in front of the camera actually feasible, where I just go boop, 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 boop. That's done. It doesn't turn into a hair pulling out experience of stopping what you're doing, going behind the camera, trying to change the settings, come back, or reaching behind the camera, messing with buttons that you can't see, tapping it, screwing it up, sitting down, fixing it, going back, fixing it again, and then you have to do this forever. That's not oddly specific or anything, and it doesn't happen to me multiple times per week. So the actual body of the Canon 90D is so much better. And I love, legitimately, I've never actually owned a DSLR, but this body is fantastic. It's got more buttons, it's got more heft. It feels amazing to hold. Like anecdotally, off script, I went with my wife out to like a photography class that she was taking, and the quick camera I had was the 90D because my EOS R was on the tripod. I was able to hold it for like 2 hours, no problems. It felt amazing. I've used the A6400 to take photos at a family wedding before, and it's a smaller body, it's easier to transport, but if you're gonna hold it, especially if you get a big lens on it, it's not as comfortable to hold. The body on the 90D is insanely good. Plus, like Sony's full frame cameras, it's got a joystick on the back for moving focus points around and other ancillary features. I heart the body of the 90D. It's probably one of my favorite of all time. So that's great and all, but how a camera handles after you hit record is far more important. So let's hop outside real quick and do a quick vlogging test to see how these two cameras put all of this theory to work in a practical situation. Welcome to the vlogging test of the Canon EOS 90D and the Sony A6400. Both, surprisingly enough, are currently shooting in 4K 30 frames per second, which again, if you've paid attention to Canon, they kind of have gotten rid of 24 frames per second. But these are both the kit lenses. I've got the 18-135 on the Canon. I've got the 16-50 on the Sony. Is that exactly fair? Probably not, but they're the two kit lenses I have and I do very much like. Both of them do have image stabilization built into them because neither of these cameras do. Now I do have the audio going through the 90D because it's just way easier to have a microphone set up on top of the 90D, whereas the A6400 has the flip up screen, which it's doable, but it's not like the way I would want to do it. But yeah, they're both currently set to a standard picture profile. They are both set to f5.6. 60 shutter speed and 1/60th ISO. So which one do you like better? Which one is a little more stabler? Which one is a little more sharper? I actually am surprised at how much I like the 90D, but it is, with the kit lens, about twice as much as the A6400. The A6400 is much smaller. Gotta switch arms because that package is heavy. Shoulders hurting. But yeah, which one do you like better? But yeah, which one do you like better? A lot of it's going to turn into like personal preference, though I will admit that the 90D has shocked me for how much I've liked it. All right, back to the video. And we're back. Yes, both cameras are totally capable, but nothing is as easy to use as a Canon camera. Another benefit is the way that the screen articulates out to the side instead of over the top. It's easier to put a microphone on top. Now, it's not insurmountable. On the Sony, you could always use something like this little small rig adapter to offset the hot shoe and turn it into a cold shoe, but it's just so much easier on the 90D. Let's say you decide to buy one of these cameras. What does the ecosystem / upgrade path look like? So I'm prepared to make this controversial statement. I'm gonna call these systems pretty even. I know, I'm ducking. Both lens mounts, Canon EF and Sony E, have a significant amount of lenses for them. I mean, there are technically more crop lenses from the EFS lineup, but I don't really like many of the EFS lenses, so I would end up recommending their full frame lenses anyway. Sony kind of has the similar problem where there aren't very many APS-C Sony lenses, but they've got a really great trio of Sigma primes that make it fantastic, and they are coming out with a zoom lens here pretty soon. But Sony also has full frame lenses that you could use, but it works better on the 90D because the body can handle the bigger lenses where the A6400 can't really. Now, upgrading wise, any EF lens you get can basically be adapted to almost any camera ever made. Almost every mirrorless system has a way to mount EF glass, and it's probably the most versatile and future-proof system you can buy into. Upgrading on the Sony E though is also incredibly easy because they have a full range of cutting-edge bodies that will take both full frame and crop glass pretty darn easily. Yes, both are pretty equal. I'm sorry. Fight me. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Which of these two cameras comes out on top? It really depends on your requirements. If you require 24 frames per second, then obviously I can't recommend the 90D to you. If you want a smaller camera, again, I can't recommend the 90D to you. It's a pretty big DSLR. The A6400 stands out as a fantastic camera that you can get for a pretty reasonable price. Kit lens to kit lens, like $500 cheaper. I mean, it's a fantastic camera that I recommend to people all of the time. However, I really like the 90D, like a lot. Now, after being disappointed by the G7X Mark III, after being pretty lukewarm about the SL3 and the EOS RP, I was going into the 90D not expecting much. But this is an amazing camera. It has less of a 4K crop than the EOS R. It has really good electronic image stabilization, and it's just so fantastically easy to use. It is more expensive on the crop sensor side, but I'm actually really darn impressed. Now, if you want to get the easiest to use camera that has really good 4K and you shoot 30 frames per second, I have no problems recommending the 90D. It's fantastic, and I'm considering personally buying one to be like my B cam to my EOS R. Thanks for watching.